All right, we are here live at the Libertarian Party of Indiana convention. We have Austin Petersen, who's running for president. Greg is here as well. Austin, why did you decide to run for president?
Quite frankly, I was desperate because I was looking for someone who would champion the ideas of economic freedom and personal liberty and fight like a tiger. I want someone who will grab the banner, the torch of liberty, and run with it. And when I saw at the end of last year that it didn't look like we were going to have somebody who would fight as ferociously for these ideas as I myself would if I was the candidate, I said, well, what if I was the candidate? So I decided to run to give the Libertarian Party, as well as the American people, an option, a choice, a chance. If you don't like the two major party candidates, here is a principled young man who believes in what he says and can rally people to his cause and articulate the ideas of liberty. That's real Americanism. And so I'll express that to the American people, and I hope I get a chance, that the party gives me a chance to make my case.
Can you talk a little bit about your background? I personally worked with you when you were at volunteer coordinator for the Libertarian Party way back when. When was that? I don't even remember.
That was 2008. I've had an unbelievable career the last 10 years. I started out as a street activist, going out and volunteering for Ron Paul just on the street, using my video camera and getting people registered to vote in 2007 in New York City. Amazingly, we had a 12-person activist group that ballooned from into a 1,200-person organization, and we raised $1 million for Ron Paul. The Libertarian Party took notice and hired me as a volunteer coordinator. I turned the office into a powerhouse of activism, and I'll do it again if I win. After that, I went on to Atlas, and I taught libertarians around the world how to grow libertarianism in their countries. And meanwhile, I was brainchilding a project to get Judge Napolitano, the senior judicial analyst, his own show on Fox. That was successful. I used the libertarian movement, or rather, we all worked together to get the judge his show, and I became his A1 producer. He called me the right side of his brain. We are so close in ideology and thinking. And after the show was canceled, I went to FreedomWorks, and I helped build Tea Party movements to try and rally people against Obamacare. And then I started my own business, and I now run and publish one of the most popular libertarian news magazines in the country, LibertarianRepublic.com, and I spread libertarianism to people for profit. These ideas should live or die in a for-profit motive. We've got a lot of non-profit institutions, but now libertarianism is at the mercy of the free market, and people are choosing to read libertarian ideas, and that's, to me, exciting. And I hope that I can bring that same sort of gusto and excitement and zeal to the presidential ticket.
So Gary Johnson ran last time, and he's a very popular candidate. There are many people, Greg has remarked that he's surprised that Gary Johnson has reached Ron Paul status in some areas. So why challenged? Here, you want a caveat?
Well, I only say that because when I have any criticism, I get chastised like I killed Jesus, so that's the only reason, yeah.
Yeah, so...
A little bit of that cult status for Gary, but good for him. He's earned it. He's worked hard for it, and he did a good job in 2012 of getting the 1%, the highest national vote total. Well done on that. I think I can do better. The reality is that we need someone who can operate in our advanced technological society right now, not operate on the old rules of politics. Somebody who's willing to break the rules, and that's what I do. That's why I get in trouble all the time. I get in so much trouble. I got in trouble at Fox. I got in trouble at the LP. I get in trouble everywhere because I'm not willing to sit back and be complacent. When I want things to be better, you've got to stand up, grab the reins, and ride. And I think that the Libertarian Party this year has an opportunity, with the dissatisfaction that the two major parties, their candidates, that the American people will say, who is the third party candidate? And if we don't have someone that can out-debate me, how are they going to out-debate Trump or Hillary? I'm the best damn debater in this party. I will stand up there in front of millions and not have a single shred of fear while I argue that you should not be forced to bake a cake. Jews should not be forced to bake a cake for a Nazi. That is important. While it may be politically incorrect, our policies are correct. And if I'm given the opportunity to preach them to the American people, I think they're going to be excited. I think they're going to like it. You know what? The reality is it's already happening. When I was in Florida, we had a debate, and the question was, how will you advance the Libertarian? How will you grow the Libertarian Party? So I took a huge risk. And I said, okay, everybody who's here right now at this Florida convention to support me, and I had no idea, to support me, raise your hand. Hands shot up all over the entire place. And I was like, oh, phew, that could have gone really bad. And then Mark Allen Feldman, my opponent, says, how many people here are to oppose Austin? No hands raised. And I was like, oh, whew, that could have been even worse. If even one hand had been raised, I would have been like, dang it. So I'm growing the party. I've grown the party. I've worked in the party. I know how to grow movements, social movements, and I know how to attract people to this cause. We've got one of the most diverse campaigns. We've got women working on our campaign. You don't see that with libertarian movements. You do not see that with libertarian campaigns. We've got minorities. We've got a lot of single mothers who are out there fighting. You just don't see the type of demographics on libertarian campaigns that you do with the Petersen campaign. And here's the thing. We're not pandering. We're not like, hey, single moms for AP for LP. They're starting that spontaneously. 2 PACs have emerged in the last couple of months spontaneously for people to emerge. So if you're talking about that Ron Paul cult status, Gary, you may be there now, but I'm nipping at your heels, bro. So
well, I have personally criticized you because when you are running for president and you want to represent an official party, you have to act in a certain way, and that's why I don't serve in party leadership anymore, because we've just taken crap all weekend long just because of shenanigans, and we have an irreverent style. I mean, so, Greg?
Well, I mean, for me, I'm sympathetic towards you because I don't think would you agree that we're not doing somebody a favor by not exposing them now in-house than when they would get into a general election?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And here's the deal. The question they asked me in Texas, the Texas debate was, Austin, you tend to irritate people. You tend to rub people the wrong way. And I had to answer well, first of all, let me just quote the Bible and say that a prophet is never accepted in their own lands by their own people. When the Jews had a choice, they said, give us Barabbas. They didn't choose Jesus. So not to say I'm Jesus or anything, but right.
Yeah. Are you, in fact, Austin Petersen, Libertarian Jesus?
No. But if I'm irritating people, then I'm doing my job, because right now I think we are too comfortable in our activism. We are too complacent. Too many people are just happy to run their own little county affiliate, and they don't want anybody to join them. Like Nick Sarwark was just saying, I give him credit. Stop calling people status and running people out. As soon as I find somebody who wants to have dinner with me and talk to me about libertarianism, but they say they don't agree with me, I don't talk about the things we don't agree with immediately. I find the things that we agree with, and I widen the opportunity for agreement. Libertarians get annoyed at me, but normal people like me. And so it's strange, because while I have to win the primary, what works in a general is not what works in a primary. So what libertarians don't like about me, speaking in bumper stickers, quoting the Constitution, the American people will be like, hell yeah, I'd put that on my truck, and I love the Constitution. So if you want a candidate who can have appeal in a general, my style might be irritating to the intellectuals of the party, and even though I am one, I speak to the masses. It will work in a general, and I hope that you all will trust me, and that yes, I might be a little bit bombastic, a bit irreverent, a bit politically incorrect, but how will we get attention? Do you want a candidate who's going to sit down and say, oh yes, I will just bake the cake, and just don't hurt people's feelings? Like, liberty will hurt your feelings. It will hurt your feelings, and I am sorry, because I don't want people to have their feelings hurt, but the United States is not your safe space. So some hard truths must be spoken, and I will speak them, and I will do so bravely and courageously. Damn the consequences.
Oh my God, Greg, did you just find your candidate? Like, it's basically, he's describing our podcast.
I know, like, I could not agree more, because, and if I'm right, you've been a libertarian your whole life, but then for a little while at FreedomWorks, the necessities of being affiliated with the Republican Party.
No Republican, no overt Republicanism in FreedomWorks. They were a non-profit that were not. They supported Republican candidates,
sorry, yeah.
Right? But I was not a part of that. The activist institution of that. I was in the educational part of it. There's like two parts of FreedomWorks.
Yeah.
But the truth is that the only Republican I really supported was Ron Paul and Rand Paul.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I want to see libertarians succeed. I'd like to do what the progressives did and take over all the parties, right? But I think we need a strong, principled outsider voice to try and break the two-party system if we can, and that's what I'm fighting for. So yeah. I think I'm the youngest candidate, but I'm the oldest in libertarian years. So if you want to talk to the Republicans, you might want to ask my opponent, because he's had more experience with them than I have.
How do you get beyond? Because one of the things Rand struggled with was he was a theoretical libertarian, but the libertarians didn't like him, and the Republicans didn't like him. And so, how do you overcome that? Even though you're running as the Libertarian Party rather than the Republican Party, do you see that as something that hampers you, and how do you address that?
Yeah, initially I got a lot of flashes. People were attacking me, libertarians mostly initially, because of the non-aggression principle, and the movement was like, screw Austin Petersen, down with Austin, we'll never support him. And then when my two major opponents came out against it, one saying they didn't understand what it was, and the other one just saying, yeah, I don't know what that is, and I'm going to completely throw that out the window. then when we had the Stossel Forum, things changed. Things have really changed. Fundraising has picked up, support has picked up. And, I was telling my friend Ashley this morning about this issue of social signaling, right? So what happens is a lot of times, even libertarians, if everybody's like, I hate Austin Petersen, and then their best friend sees them saying, I hate Austin Petersen, they're going to be like, yeah, I like my friend, and down with Austin Petersen. Crowd behavior. But then when the Stossel Forum happened, somebody kind of squeaked out, Austin was good. And then somebody's like, yeah, he was okay. And then somebody was like, well, actually, Austin was better than good. And somebody was like, yeah, he was pretty good. And then somebody else was like, Austin was great. And they were like, he destroyed. He dominated. He was amazing. And so now the tide has become the trickle has become a flood. So will I be able to overcome these obstacles? Damn right. I've accomplished incredible things against tremendous odds, and I will continue to do so because I have a long track record of doing so. And I'm young. I'm feisty. I got some fight, and this isn't even my final form. You got tiger style right now, and soon I will morph into the dragon. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Did I hear, trust me, they don't want to run against me? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, exactly. They're in a lot of danger. They are in a lot of danger because Hillary Clinton has a horrible track record that we've known in public. She's very unpopular. And then you have Donald Trump, who is very unpopular to a large swath of the voters. And a lot of people, I think, when they see me in contrast to these two major party candidates, if I can just win this nomination, then when they see me in contrast, then a lot of boxes are going to get checked. We've got Rubio supporters on board. Can you believe it? Neoconservative types are like, Austin, you're not crazy, and that's a good thing, and now we support you. And I'm like, wow, I would have never thought we'd have gotten that constituency. Cruz supporters are like, Austin, if he drops, you're my boy, Blue. And then, of course, Trump supporters, if Trump loses, may even come over simply because I am so anti-establishment that they might say, well, hell, he said some naughty things about Trump and made me mad, and he likes Mexicans too much, but we might be able to support him because he wants to tear down the established order. That is what I want to do. I want to take down the establishment, such as it is, the banking establishment, the central banking cartels. I want to end the Fed. I want to end the IRS. I want to restore a free market in money. I want real competition. It's all about small businesses being the driver of this economy. Austrian economics is at the heart of what we're discussing. I want to educate the American people on that. Frederick Bastiat, Mises, Hayek. This is what I'm fighting for. Real classical liberalism, not the kind progressives are foisting on us. So you just watch. My rhetoric will change. We began with a discussion about the NAP, which was not very nice to Mr. AP. But in the end, when you hear my rhetorics flip to what the American people were going to want, I think people are going to be proud to be a libertarian.
So explain for those who aren't familiar with what was happening with the non-aggression principle discussion, can you kind of fill that in, and what is your stance on that?
Yeah, I think that people were afraid that I wanted to eat babies and steal their stuff, but that's just not the case. I mean, I do believe in the golden rule: don't hit people, don't take their stuff. But there was some confusion because some certain there's a small ideological sect of libertarians who are pacifist anarchists, and that's perfectly legitimate. That's a legitimate school of thought. Not all are, but some of them will not retaliate even if attacked, and so they're looking for any opportunity never to use self-defense, and they claim that anyone who would use self-defense is an aggressor. That's a problem, especially when liberals control the dialogue, when they say, oh, microaggressions. Well, is being racist an act of aggression? A liberal might tell you yes and might throw you in jail for such. So we have to be very careful about how we define aggression. My crime is that, not that I completely reject the non-aggression principle, no, my crime is that I successfully deconstructed it and caused people to question themselves and to think. So because I'm opposed to dogma. I tend to be a critical, skeptical thinker. I am willing to contradict myself if it means that I question my most deeply held beliefs. Aristotle said the mark of a great mind is to entertain a thought without accepting it. So I entertain the thought of, what if we didn't have a non-aggression principle? And in doing so, I've become a heretic again. But I'm not afraid of that. I really don't care, because as an independent-minded person, and I know we're not supposed to do that, as we're rather collectivists, libertarians we tend to be. But I reject dogma, and I despise those who try and force it upon us. And to me, it seems to be a group of people who want to force this dogma on us, rather than to allow critical inquiry, free thinking, rationalism, skepticism. I'm a more Penn Jillette style libertarian. So when it comes to the non-aggression principle, I think that my only real crime was that I successfully debunked some of the fallacies that some of the pacifist anarchists have, which is that that starving a child to death is not an act of aggression. Technically, I guess they're right. It's not an initiation of force, as you would define it. So when Murray Rothbard wrote that he thought it should be immoral to starve a child to death, but not illegal, I said to myself, well, that's where I get off on the train. Okay, so that's not the kind of society I want to live in, and so I firmly arrived at the camp of minarchism, constitutional minarchism, where I don't really care if the truncheon that hits me over the head is a public truncheon or a private nightstick. Don't hit me with a nightstick. The means of coercion, whatever they are, necessarily have the same effect as government. So I guess I got in trouble with the ANCAPs. But what's amazing is that after all this discussion and all these fights and all this hatred and rage, after Johnson said he wanted to force a Jew to bake Nazi cakes, all of a sudden the ANCAPs are like, Austin, you're not looking too bad, bro. So anyway, yeah, that's what's happened. Yeah.
So how does the race look?
I'm the underdog still. I'm behind, but I'm probably number 2. John McAfee, I think, is a worthy competitor, but I don't see him as being able to pull it off simply because of the baggage. And he's a neophyte. He doesn't understand the principles. He feels it, right? He feels libertarianism. He lived that sort of libertarian life. But to me, what the American people want in general is not going to be somebody like McAfee. But when it comes to Johnson versus McAfee, I don't know. I almost feel like just throwing the roach. He's like the roach bomb. If you throw McAfee, you're gonna cause so much controversy in hell that maybe will destabilize the establishment. But if we run Johnson again, then it's like 4 more years of just mediocre. And if you want real revolution, if you want that radicalism, if you want the roach bomb against the statists, you got AP for LP, because not only do I present that conservative-ish veneer that people want, a solid, steady hand in their executive, their chief commander, but I have the radicalism and the excitement and the ideas that a McAfee would have, someone who will defend the Second Amendment rights no matter what, someone who will fight for private property no matter what. You get the best of both worlds with me. The only thing that I don't have is I wasn't a governor, but I wasn't a Republican either, so 1 out of 2 ain't bad.
And finally, your age. That comes up a lot. How old are you? And some of the discussion around that you're too young, you're not experienced enough in life to be president. We need somebody a little bit older.
Right. Well, old people are the ones who got us in this mess, so that's a bit of a fallacy there. And if you've done your homework, you probably know, unless you haven't watched the Stossel debate, for example. The truth is that younger men than myself founded this country. The Marquis de Lafayette was 18 years old on July 4th, 1776. Thomas Jefferson was 33. Madison was 25. Hamilton was 21. Young people founded this country, and we're going to be the ones to take it back. Chris, you know that.
Absolutely. Finally, shameless self-promotion time. Tell people where they can find you, how they can find you, how they can support you if they would like. Yeah,
the revolution continues at ap4lp.com. That's AP, the number 4lp.com. You can send in a donation. I heard that Harriet Tubman is going to be replacing Andrew Jackson on the 20, so get rid of those old 20s, send them to AP4LP, and do me a favor and volunteer as an official Freedom Ninja. We've got our volunteer teams. We're all Freedom Ninjas, and if you go to thefreedomninjas.com, thefreedomninjas.com, or you can just type in doyouevenlibertybro.com, and you'll find us there, and you can learn more about my campaign to help me take over the government so I can leave everyone alone.
Can you explain Freedom Ninjas? Because I kind of honestly want to make fun of it.
Yeah, okay, sure. So here's the story. So I'm a martial artist, and I'm not like Gary Johnson, be like, I climb mountains. Bet you I could throw a football over them mountains. No, so I've been a martial artist for a decade, and this is actually a really good story. So when I worked at Fox, there was this publicist who was sitting in the green room, and she was a huge fan, and she loved everything that I did, and she was just, she loved my martial arts, and she knew I was a big libertarian. And so she's sitting there in the green room, and there's all these famous people there, right? And everybody, what happens in the green room at Fox is like the business, like that's what's going on. All the famous people, senators, congressmen, whoever, Prince before he died, and everybody's hanging out, and I'm not there. Nick Gillespie is there from Reason Magazine, and they're all chit-chatting and blah, blah, blah. And Eric Bolling walks into the green room and is like, who is running the judge's Facebook page? And everybody's kind of like, oh, I don't know idea. And he's like, does anybody know who's running the judge's Facebook page? Like, I need to talk to this person, because he was seeing me blowing it up like gangbusters. And so then he goes, all right, so last call, who runs the judge's Facebook page? And the publicist lady, who was my friend, Mary, she goes, oh, it's the ninja. And the whole green room, I heard, went silent. And everybody's like, the ninja? And she goes, it's the Freedom Ninja. It's Austin Petersen. And so later, Nick Gillespie came up to me and was like, so I hear you're the Freedom Ninja. And so ever since that day, people have said Austin, the Freedom Ninja, and it's a little inside joke that we have. I've also got another nickname, Leaf Bieberson, and that was Alex Jones who said I look like Justin Bieber lookalike, but I don't see it. I can probably outsing him though. So
I did enjoy when that started to he would counter troll. So when that would come up, and he'd always get hit on Facebook with, "Oh, you're just blah blah blah," and he'd like, "Yeah, I'm Leaf Bieberson," and he'd own it, and he'd pull a total Greg, and he would just like roll the tanks right over their fields. It was pretty entertaining.
That's Alinsky, by the way. Yeah. When you take a negative and push it through until it becomes a positive. Another good example of that is, and we're talking Rules for Radicals here, which I highly encourage all libertarians to read. Yes, we do. But another example of that is my youth. Right? So my greatest weakness, I have now turned into my greatest strength. And now all of the young people are like, yeah, don't tell us we can't do this. Now, our founding fathers were younger than us. So whenever somebody attacks you, before you counterattack, think for just a moment about how that attack might turn into a victory. And that is how we will win. Classic Sun Tzu, classic art of war. This is how libertarians will advance. Adopt your enemy's tactics, not their philosophies. Adopt their tactics, and we will win great victories for our cause.
We too read Robert Greene every night as a devotional. 48 Rules of Power. Check it out. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. ap4lp.com.
That's correct. Yeah, AP, the number 4, LP.com, like Austin Petersen for Libertarian Party. Or Austin for President.
All right. Thanks for joining us.